Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we're going to talk about legacy factions again. You see they just recently released so you can download them for free. All the rules for quite iconic Warhammer Fantasy faction fans such as the Lizardmen, Dark Elves, Vampire Counts, Ogre Kingdoms, Skaven, Demons of Chaos and the Chaos Dwarfs. A link to that will be found in the description below just in case you haven't downloaded them just yet. Now the reason why I want to talk about this again is because I'm rather confused with Games Workshop's stance with Warhammer The Old World, especially when it comes to the legacy list. You see, there's a little statement in the first page of each of the legacy armies, which goes as follows. The rules contained within this document allow players the opportunity to try out Warhammer The Old World rules using models they may have in their collection. They're not intended for use in match play events, and will not be updated in line with any future Warhammer The Old World publications. Okay. So this is something that we've known for a while, but it seems like they're kind of doubling down on it by putting it in the respective army list, which is fair enough. It's one of these things where we've known this for a while, but there's always been a little bit of hope that maybe down the line, a few years down the line, they will update them. Now the stance on this is a little bit confusing because, well, of the following reasons. For example, there are a few mistakes posted by the community already online. One such is on screen right now, Hellish Figure, which its casting value is 9+ to 12+, yet for some reason the effect is the casting result of 7 or 10+. So as you can tell, it's two different casting values, but it's for the exact same spell. Someone on Twitter said this is the first numbers is referring to the casting value including bonuses, and the second is referring to no bonuses, but that's not the case. The casting value and the casting results should always be the same irrespective of any bonuses. So obviously something like that needs to be updated, and there's obviously a few other examples which are slightly concerning because it does kind of feel like the legacy faction stuff was kind of rushed. And yes, while I do understand that Games Workshop don't really want people playing the legacy factions, we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video, it just makes no sense. Why was this stuff not balanced as it said it was? Because on the Old World Almanac itself, it says the following. These are, however, complete lists and cover more or less every generic character, troop, monster, or war machine that was available to each faction during the final edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battles. A good deal of care and attention has gone into playtesting, balancing these lists, and each comes with upgrades, magic items, additional spell laws, and army rules. Which is true, there's actually quite a lot of really cool stuff, especially for factions that I quite like myself, like the Demons of Chaos, Skaven, hell, even some new mount options for the, well, not really new, but additional mount options for certain characters in the Ogre Kingdoms. And then there's kind of worrying stuff, like for example the Witch Elves. You see Witch Elves have Murderous. This is something written out by a community member in, I believe, the Real Iron Hands Discord. But yeah, let's read it out because this is actually quite confusing considering that it kind of goes against what the Witch Elves actually do. So, Murderous allows them to reroll natural ones to wound, but it only applies to an ordinary hand weapon and ceases to apply if they use two hand weapons or magic hand weapon or anything else. Naturally, Witch Elves are actually equipped with two hand weapons. They don't have any other options, so they lose out on Murderous, which is a big key thing to them. Now, this isn't actually just a problem for the legacy factions too. In fact, I believe someone was mentioning that the Warriors of Chaos have this issue also, especially if they're taking additional hand weapons when they're marked of Khorne. But yeah, rules like this, really strange, kind of nonsensical rules, to be honest, do appear throughout the legacy list fairly often, which is fairly disappointing. At the end of the day, people have those collections, they want to use it. The main thing is people can simply ignore it because, well, they're not going to be using that in Games Workshop events, they're not allowed, but public events, it's been stated many times by various TOs that yes, they will allow the legacy factions. But stuff like that is very obvious, especially for those who want to keep by the books. Especially since the rules have been out for a few days now. I know, for example, some people who are just running some Dark Elf lists without Witch Elves, which is a massive shame. I myself have a fair amount of them, but I haven't used them just yet. I haven't played with my Dark Elves just yet, and it's a bit of a shame because I don't feel incentivized to play with my Dark Elves now. Now, you might be saying that, yeah, this is understandable. Games Workshop just wanted the armies out there so people can play with them and eventually move on to Warhammer The Old World. And I totally get that. I really do. At the end of the day, if that's the narrative going forward, you never know for the full future, but it's something weird, right? Tell me this, if you play legacy factions mostly, because that's all you have, you play, for example, Dark Elves, you see stuff like this murderous issue over here, to a Dark Elf player, looks like a massive issue. And that doesn't really set a good example for those of the supported factions, because if it's happening for the free rules, which are smaller in size, people might be a bit concerned about those in Forces of Fantasy and Ravening Hordes. First impressions obviously do matter, and the legacy factions are just serving as a way to be a gateway for people to go into the main supported stuff. What gets really confusing is the addition of new units which either were a thing once and then got removed, or weren't a thing at all. I believe this is mostly for the Demons of Chaos, but it's still odd, right? Blue Horrors are back, and they used to be more of a token system more than anything else, which, I mean, it's better to see them as an actual unit. But again, yeah, if you want to play with Blue Horrors, you just buy stuff from the current range, right? Same thing with the Brimstone Horrors. Brimstone Horrors are now a swarm. So, yeah, you play with them, but this is like pretty much very new. But it wasn't a thing in the whole last edition of Warhammer Fantasy, which is where the legacy lists are based on, so you can understand my confusion and the confusion of many others. It sounds really strange to bring them back and they're just not going to be supported, right? It's just really, really odd. And it's not like the Tzeentch Demons needed that. The Tzeentch Demons pretty much have a pretty good roster as it stands. If anything, if you wanted to play a monogod list back in the day with Khorne, Nurgle, or Slaanesh, those are the ones that you kind of suffered with. Which again, makes me really confused as why they bring back Blue Horrors and introduce Brimstones, but no Plague Toads of Nurgle. Super odd, man. Super odd. Now, I'm not being negative for the sake of being negative. It's just, you know, expectations were had, especially when stating that things were going to be balanced and play-tested to the point that they're going to be online with the factions that are core at the very beginning, at least. Obviously, remember that eventually they have stated that we're going to be getting, I think, 2 biannual FAQs for Old World. So, you know, things will change as things progress. But it would be nice as a goodwill gesture to the community if they just decided, yeah, we're going to FAQ these ones and fix up the problems just this once to make sure that everything works as intended, there is no confusion, and there we go. I'm still holding out hope that down the line it could be possible that, you know, we'll get actual proper updates for all the legacy factions, mostly because Games Workshop runs as a business. If everyone starts noticing, hey, you know, a lot of people are doing this with the Demons of Chaos or with the Dark Elves or whatever, maybe it would be a good idea to do a proper push for them. Now, I'm just going to say one thing before we end this video, because I know some people are going to be commenting this right now regardless, where they're saying, look, those factions aren't going to be in because they don't want it to be alongside Age of Sigmar. Okay, fair enough. Beastmen are still in Age of Sigmar, you know, they're Beasts of Chaos, and they've been heavily hinting that the Beasts of Chaos are going to get some stuff in the future, because the Age of Sigmar creators I talked to said that there's lore updates for Morga the Shadowgave. He's now some sort of god. So yeah, those are both in both settings, you know, the Warriors of Chaos, Slaves to Darkness and Age of Sigmar, that's another thing. So it's not like that doesn't happen. Sure, I know that this has been a thing that they're going to do for 40k and 30k. They've been doing that a while, where some troops have been going to Legacy and so on. It's a bit harder to do with a fantasy setting, which is still very much the same, though. And unlike those Warhammer Fantasy fans, which are going to go, haha, Age of Shitmar, I honestly think that it benefits both, right? People will be more incentivized to try out Age of Sigmar if everything is available still for them in Warhammer Fantasy, well, Warhammer The Old World. No bad blood, or at least that's the way I see it. Again, could be hopium, could be copium. I'm thinking about this in the way of, it would be nice. Plus, think about it this way. We have 2 big fantasy settings, Age of Sigmar and Old World. Like, it opens up so much for people to kit bash, right? That a lot of people like their unique-looking armies. You'd have 2 rangers to have fun with. I'm going to keep optimistic for the future. You can do more you want, but yeah, look at this. Old World is back, right? Warhammer Fantasy is back. There was clearly a demand, and there was clearly a lot of help from video games and so on. Yeah, things can change, and I'm hoping for the better. At the end of the day, I want more hobby more often, and that means from every setting. So, yeah. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. Do apologize for a little rambling at the end, but I do want to see everything back for the purpose of everyone having a little bit of fun, right? But yeah, have a good day. And just a heads up, I'm going back to a 1 video a day schedule. So a little bit of Old World, a little bit of Total War. It's mostly because I'm going to be honest with you, dude. I am a one-man army, and I'm a little bit tired. It's been a lot of content in the last like 2-3 weeks, and I need a little bit of rest. So yeah, I'll see you soon. There's a battle report coming hopefully this week, by the way. I'm just editing it after this video. So yeah, see you soon.